Good afternoon. Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annika Lee, and I am the Membership and Communications Coordinator at the Digital Technology Supercluster. And I am pleased to welcome you to the information session on ventureLAB's Canadian IP Retention Initiative and their Capital Investment Program, which we are hosting today in partnership with Protein Industries Canada and ventureLAB. It's so great to see so many different organizations across Canada joining us today. Before we get started, we respectfully acknowledge that in Canada, we live, work, and learn on the unceded traditional and ancestral land of Indigenous people. As myself and much of the Digital Supercluster team are based in Vancouver, British Columbia, we are gathered here virtually on the traditional ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. And we encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you are joining us from. Now I'd like to hand it over to Jen, the IP manager at the Supercluster.
Thank you, Annika. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen, and we're thrilled to have you join us today and to be co-hosting this session with colleagues from across Canada and also with attendees from coast to coast, which is very true to form to our pan-Canadian ecosystem engagement. As we get started, a high-level overview that over the course of approximately the next 60 minutes or so, the objective in this session is to share a snapshot of the digital technology and protein industry superclusters, followed by a deeper dive into ventureLAB and the two exceptional program opportunities that you'll hear about today. The Q&A to follow is intended to be interactive, so we encourage you to post your questions in the chat to Josée and CIP, who will introduce in a few minutes. Next slide, please, Annika. Perfect, and next slide. As this slide shows, Canada ranks 12 of 16 on the Global OECD Innovation Scorecard, and approximately 50% of Canadian ventures close within 5 years. And roughly of that, over 85% of Canadian tech firms have less than 10 employees. And as you look across other sectors, the numbers are also small. In order to address these cross-industry challenges whilst creating products that can scale across industries and ultimately across the world, it's collaborative innovation and opportunities such as the ones you're going to be hearing more about shortly that help to set that framework. Next slide, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Gervais, and I'm the Director of IP for the Protein Industries Canada Supercluster. I'm pleased to be with you today and looking forward to learning more about the program. So superclusters are here to encourage industry leaders, small and medium-sized companies, and post-secondary institutes to collaborate on large-scale projects in order to speed up growth in some of Canada's most promising sectors. Our superclusters all work nationally, and as the slide up on your screen demonstrates, we have geographic headquarters moving from west to east. So Jen is here representing the digital supercluster, while I'm a member of the Protein Industries Canada team. And our sibling superclusters, if you will, focus on next generation manufacturing, enhancing the use of artificial intelligence in supply chains, and then growing Canada's ocean-based industries. Next slide, please.
Perfect, thanks. So if we take a look at this slide, it's an overview of the digital technology supercluster. And as you can see, there's 82 projects across streams of technology leadership, COVID-19, and capacity building. In total, there's over $300 million invested, of which over $160 million is attracted from industry consortia, and over 70% of co-investment goes to SMEs. Consortia are currently in development on 100 plus products and services. And there's over 350 anticipated IP assets to be created by the projects and spanning the space of copyrights, trade secrets, industrial designs, and patents. With nearly 1,000 members and over 350 organizations involved in projects, we are witnessing such a motivation in Canada in accelerating the innovation ecosystem model. Next slide.
So the slide that I am sharing today is a quick highlight of the progress to date at Protein Industries Canada. Working with our industry members, we are supporting more than 25 projects with a combined value of over $380 million. Our focus at Protein Industries Canada, or PIC as lots of folks refer to us, is on the growth of Canada's plant-based protein opportunity. And we take a value chain approach to projects spanning everything from crop genomics, the application of digital technology to agriculture, a lot of value-added processing projects, and finally, the manufacture of consumer packaged goods. As the slide depicts, we're proud to have roughly 300 members from across Canada and abroad, and we're already seeing significant intellectual property generation from our project portfolio.
Perfect.
So I'll get you to go to the next slide.
I'll leave it to you, Megan.
Sure. So I am happy to have the opportunity to introduce to everyone today Josée Pharand, Director of IP Programs and Policies. As ventureLAB's Director of IP Programs and Policies, Josée helps entrepreneurs identify and protect their IP. Graduating from Queen's University with a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Mechanical Engineering, Josée spent several years in the private sector before joining the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, where she found her true passion in intellectual property and innovation. Prior to joining ventureLAB, I had the pleasure of meeting Josée during her time at Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, or ISED, where Josée was working as a director for Canada's Innovation Superclusters Initiative, focused on overseeing the project's intellectual property framework.
Perfect. And I have the pleasure of introducing CIP Assadian, Director of Venture Growth at ventureLAB's. As ventureLAB's Director of Venture Growth, CIP leads the ventureLAB team of in-house advisors and mentors who support clients in signature and core programs, including the Capital Investment Program. CIP has over 10 years of experience in innovation ecosystems globally as an entrepreneur, an advisor, and an investor, and has supported the launch of 2 accelerators and has also designed and coordinated national and international events. You're both very welcome, and all of our attendees are in sort of exceptional hands to hear about these wonderful initiatives. So with that, we'll hand it over both to you, Josée and CIP, for this next part.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I'm going to share my screen. All right, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Perfect, excellent. So CIP and I are really looking forward to talking with your members about these programs that are offered by ventureLAB. After the presentation, we will be making the deck available to attendees, and we'll provide links to our calendars. So we'd be happy to meet with anyone who's got questions about ventureLAB or about either of the programs that we'll be talking about today. And of course, we'll be happy to take questions after the presentation as well. This should be about 15 to 20 minutes, and then there's a Q&A period scheduled for afterwards. So before we get into the presentation, I would like to take a minute to acknowledge that as virtual participants, we're coming together today from many different places. The ventureLAB offices operate on and we walk upon the traditional territories of the Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the original keepers of this land, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee. We recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all the Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. So ventureLAB, if you haven't heard of us, we're a leading tech hub that supports tech entrepreneurs and small businesses. Our mission, as you can see, is to grow globally competitive tech titans that build to scale in Canada. Our office is located in the York region, which is Canada's densest tech cluster. We have headquarters located in the IBM building in Markham, and we also have a second location in Vaughan. So the impact that ventureLAB has had to date, we've supported over 2,000 tech companies and entrepreneurs who've raised over $140 million and have created over 4,200 jobs. We support over 350 companies every year through our signature programs and our innovation hub, which I'll talk more about in a second. ventureLAB supports tech entrepreneurs through programs focused on these 4 pillars: capital, talent, technology and IP, and customers. So our clients are providing hardware and enterprise software products. On the hardware side, we have a hardware catalyst initiative that we call HCI, which supports companies developing hardware embedded solutions, including sensors, chips, and robotics. If your company has ties to the York region or you're considering expanding to the area, we'd be more than happy to provide you with more information about these particular programs that might be of interest. In addition to the in-depth advisory services that we offer and that I will cover in more detail in just a moment, ventureLAB also has a 50,000 square feet innovation hub and co-working space that gets over 7,000 visitors each year. As well, the HCI clients have access to a $7 million prototype lab that helps them accelerate product development and commercialization. Our innovation hub supports over 45 companies and partners, supporting over 300 jobs. So ventureLAB is led by seasoned entrepreneurs who have decades of industry experience and who have founded and scaled IP-rich companies themselves. So we have a diverse, gender-balanced team and a performance-based culture. We have 10 dedicated in-house advisors who specialize in different sectors, including health, hardware, AI, SaaS, and fintech, for example. They provide tailored advice and support to all of our client companies. We also have 40 volunteer mentors who are C-suite senior execs. So they're serial entrepreneurs who support later stage companies in those 4 pillars that I just mentioned: capital, talent, tech and IP, and customers. So I recently joined ventureLAB as a dedicated director of IP programs and policies, and I provide one-on-one IP support to clients, which includes advice in identifying and protecting their IP, and I help them develop their IP strategies. ventureLAB also has a 10-year relationship with Raskin & Parr, one of Canada's leading IP firms. So CIP and CIRI clients, the programs we'll be talking about today, do get access to all of these resources. So let's move on to the National Capital Investment Program, or CIP as we call it. It aims to support companies that are ready to scale. So the program is specifically designed to prep companies for investment and rapid growth, and it is offered to these companies at no cost. So to date, we have over 150 CIP companies that have raised over $150 million. The program has over 50 investment partners, including Canadian and international VC and angel groups. So CIP has a competitive application process. To be eligible to apply, candidates must be Canadian tech companies that are looking for pre-seed or seed stage funding in the next 6 to 12 months. They must have significant market traction with steady annual growth or over 500K in annual recurring revenue. And they also have to have a team that demonstrates strong business and technical leadership. CIP clients get access to the dedicated advisory team that I mentioned earlier, and the team works to help them set business milestones and develop a strategy to meet them. They'll participate in roundtables, investment clinics, and demo days, and they get support crafting their pitch, including or building their data room and establishing their long-term fundraising strategy. So clients find it really invaluable to be part of a peer group of high growth tech companies. And they also get coaching on leveraging public and private funding sources, and also get access to ventureLAB's alumni network. And crucially, clients will be connected to investors who are strategically aligned with their business. So the CIRI program, the Canadian Intellectual Property Retention Initiative, or CIRI, was created to help companies develop a merger and acquisition or IP licensing strategy. And the ultimate aim here was to help keep IP in Canada. As with CIP, applicants are accepted on a rolling basis, and admissions for this program at the moment will allow up to 15 startups to join up until March 31st, 2022. So in order to be eligible for CIRI, companies must have fewer than 500 employees and be federally or provincially incorporated. They do have to be an NRC or IRAP client and have an ITA assigned to them. But if you don't have one yet and you're interested in the program, we can help you apply for that. It's a simple process, and we can get you an ITA. And there will be information in the deck later on as well on how to do that. And as I mentioned, we'll be providing the deck to all attendees. So in order to participate in CIRI, you do need to own patents or have a patent application or have trade secrets or other IP. If you're interested and you're not sure if the IP that you have would qualify, I'd be happy to have a chat with you about that as well. And we can do that as a one-on-one chat afterwards so that we keep it confidential. So CIRI clients should be either actively looking for an M&A exit or an IP licensing opportunity, or be thinking about it as a possible future exit strategy. And again, if you have questions about that, about where you're at, Sep or I would be happy to chat with you one-on-one about your situation. So CIRI clients will get one-on-one mentoring and programming to help them develop their IP strategy if you don't already have one, and also be supported in developing an M&A or IP licensing strategy. The work includes support for due diligence, for the due diligence process, including review of any existing tech licensing agreement or contracts that you have that might impact your strategy. And you'll also be supported to create your information sheet. CIRI clients will be provided with a matchmaking service that gives you an opportunity to present IP to and your venture to vetted Canadian potential acquirers or partners. And this process is confidential and non-disclosure agreements are put in place before that happens. Of course, there's no obligation to proceed with a sale or a license. We hope that by providing this opportunity to interact with potential Canadian acquirers or partners, that the outcome will be that more valuable IP is kept in Canada. And if you're not at the stage where you're ready to present to these companies yet, you can still get the opportunity to develop or fine-tune your IP strategy and your M&A or IP licensing strategy. So this is a sample of our partners. We have more than 50, mostly from the private sector, including many Canadian companies and international M&As. Got some information there. And I will pass it back to Jen. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so with that, we'd love to open up the floor to those of you that might have questions whilst we have both Sep and Josée on the line, whether it's sort of pertinent to your sort of story or wanting to learn more about some of these pieces. So we encourage you to start to post your questions in the chat. As we get started and people are thinking about their questions, Josée and Sep, I'm just wondering if you kind of have an idea roughly around, the number of applications sort of that you see, that come through and what that looks like when folks are applying.
Answer. First of all, thank you very much, Jen, Megan, and Anika for this opportunity. So in terms of the applications for the capital investment program, every year review around 100 to 150 applications coming to us, and we will select between 40 to 50 companies. So the success rate is around the 30% for the companies reaching out. And as I mentioned, as Josée mentioned, it's a national program. So we have companies coast to coast reaching out, and also we work closely with international investors interested in Canadian companies. So this is a kind of the unique opportunity for companies here in Canada trying to explore international investment opportunities. If they are looking for expanding their business and looking for the local partner there, what is the best, better than having the investor from that local market that you want to approach on that one. So this is another way that we see opportunity for the companies joining the program and presenting to the international investors. We have exclusive demo days focusing on the kind of the international expansion, and we inviting investors from Europe, US, South America, and China, and as our partners. And after that, after the demo day, we have a follow-up calls and kind of the clinics for the companies to explore other opportunities that these investors can bring to the table. So yeah, that's the kind of how we work on the kind of the CIP. And then for the CIRI, this is a kind of the program that we recently launched, and we are working on that one. So as Josée mentioned, we have 15 spots, first in, first serve, if they are qualified for that one. We have a couple of the candidates in the pipeline we are working in to find out if they are kind of the match with based on all the criteria we explained here. But definitely there are kind of the opportunity to work with a good chunk of the companies applying for that program. And this is a kind of the first in the time that we kind of open the application beyond the kind of the ventureLAB ecosystem companies. So we are looking forward to kind of to support more companies through that program.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Sep. And on a related thread, I'm wondering if you can also maybe share a little bit about what are the kinds of factors that are most important for companies to show, when they think about applying or are really interested in wanting to move forward in this.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about the Capstone investment program, and Josée, maybe you can talk about the CIRI. So for the Capstone investment program, definitely we are looking for kind of a couple of items, but the first one is about the kind of the team, the technology that they are working on that one, and the market opportunity out there. And then after, it's about the kind of their fundraising strategies, what they are looking forward to raise. So these are kind of the key elements when we kind of invite them to the review panels. We are looking forward to learn about that one. And if there is a kind of the strong team sitting there with a kind of strong solution with an opportunity to kind of access to the kind of the global market, definitely we want to kind of consider seriously for having them as part of the Capstone investment program candidate on that note. And then definitely, most of the companies we work with, there are gaps when they come to ventureLAB, and we will try to kind of go through all the details with of all aspects of their business to find the gaps, help them to fill it before sitting in front of before they get to the kind of the investors. Just kind of the mentioning the team of advisors we are talking about that's running Capstone investment program, all of them coming from the kind of VC world. And they are all the kind of the partners or the founders for the VCs or angel groups that they have been in the industry for more than 20, 30 years. And they are totally aware of all the kind of the type of the questions that might come from other end of the table. So that's a kind of the benefit of sitting and working with them prior to kind of go and shove around your idea with the investors. So this is a kind of the great opportunity to hear first from the advisors and then fix whatever kind of we call it as a kind of the gap, and then go back to the kind of investment ecosystem through our network or your personal network and shop around your idea for raise money.
Thanks, Seth. One of the questions we had come through on the chat here was, it was from Tanya. So Tanya, if you want to turn on your camera and jump in on the question, we certainly invite you to do that. But the question was around, I think a note that was on one of Jen's slides about Canada being 12th out of 16 in terms of innovation initiatives. So Tanya, do you want to jump in with your question here?
Hi, thanks so much, Megan. I'm asking that question in my capacity as a program associate with the Digital Supercluster. So my question is very much on that overarching level from that supercluster perspective of one of the reasons Digital Supercluster exists, Protein Supercluster exists, the whole initiative is to try to catalyze and improve Canada's standing on, provincially, nationally, internationally, in terms of driving innovation forward. So I've heard some stats like this, and it's a pretty It's a pretty sobering way to start a presentation like this, that Canada is that low, but the bright side is that there's lots of things that lots of room for improvement, shall we say. So I'd be really interested in hearing Josée and Sep's opinion of what are the factors that put us lower on that list, and then how do they see organizations like theirs in shifting the dial here?
Yeah, in terms of your first question, I mean, why? That's, as you said, that's a quite a tough nut to crack. It's very nebulous to figure out exactly why that's happening. In terms of what organizations like ventureLAB can help, what I've seen, and I'm sure Sep will have a much more nuanced perspective because he's been with ventureLAB for a long time, but just coming in, what I'm seeing is just the support that is being offered to these entrepreneurs and these founders, right? You have really, really, really amazing people with incredible ideas, but who don't know how to navigate the system. And so it's very easy for them without that support to give up. And so I think that's the support, you know, that's part of the benefit that organizations like ventureLAB bring to these entrepreneurs, is just that support, and someone is there to answer the questions. They can't be experts in everything, and ventureLAB brings together the experts in all those different areas, provides access to them, and they get their dedicated advisor. They have their, you know, one point of contact who can then say, here's where you're at, here's who you should talk to now. And, oh, you know, I have experience in this, I can help you with that. So I think that that's a huge part of supporting our entrepreneurs to continue to be innovative and to get their innovations out into the commercial market.
Fantastic, thanks.
Yeah, and on top of what Josée mentioned, definitely one of the kind of the areas we try to say as a part of our vision, it's about kind of the building the tech titans that they can kind of survive in the global market. And this is the kind of our mission that we try to kind of make it happen. And as I mentioned, one of the ideas we have as part of that kind of the running that Capstone investment program and working with international partners is about opening the new doors for Canadian startups and kind of the technologies, access to the kind of the international opportunities, not only about the kind of the markets, but also the investment, getting kind of the access to the international investment on that note. And then I kind of if I kind of want to talk a little bit more about why we started the Capstone investment program. Running the startup is already challenging. So maybe kind of the 5 to 7% chance to be successful. And then the chance of access to the investment is also maybe kind of between maybe 5 to 10%. So if you multiple that one, that's a really small number that kind of you have a kind of the chance to survive. And then kind of as you have a great idea, you have a great technology to build, you have a kind of the great IP that you own it, but how you can kind of scale it to be a kind of the sustainable business out there that kind of the society, the economy can get benefit of that. It's the kind of the really challenging path. And those type of the programs like CIRI and also the kind of the capital investment program are the ways that we kind of we try to kind of ease the path, maybe kind of some degree for the entrepreneurs get involved, the Canadian entrepreneurs get involved on that one, to get to the kind of the point that now they have a kind of the local solution that can kind of locally and globally serve their client and customers through the kind of the investment opportunities. We can help them to have access and kind of the focus on what they need to focus easier. That's the kind of the technology development, their IT development, the team building, their customer, their market, rather than just kind of spending lots of the time kind of going after the money. That in US easily they have access maybe kind of the 3 or 4 times more than that, right? And here it's the kind of the investment community is not that much ready to invest that much money. So that's the kind of another end of that to work with our partners, specifically on the kind of the hardware side that Josée mentioned. That is a kind of the really challenging, that lots of technology and IT sitting there, but the commercialization is a kind of the much harder. And this is the kind of what our capital investment programs try to kind of the help there specifically.
It's awesome. You've kind of given me a mental image of this brilliant entrepreneur sitting in the center of a maze, with great ideas and not sure how to navigate, not sure how to get through that maze, and your organization providing some resources and support to help navigate through that. So the ambition is actually supported and encouraged rather than lost in this in the web. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the comments.
Exactly.
Thanks, Step. And just before we will continue on with a few more questions, there's one that's kind of struck as you talked about things international is, when dealing with international expansion, does the IP remain in Canada?
This is the goal, but Josée.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, ideally it would remain in Canada, but what we're seeing over and over is that it doesn't. And of course, I mean, a company has to do what's in the company's best interest. And this is going to get very philosophical, but there are some very high level policy considerations around that, right? That we're a very different market than the US. We're a very different population size. Our geography is different. So there's a lot of reasons for that. But that's one of the objectives of the CIRI program is for companies who are interested in trying to keep the IP in Canada and who are looking at that M&A or that IP licensing exit or strategy, the M&A exit. We just want to provide them with that opportunity to perhaps keep the IP in Canada and make those confidential matchmaking introductions with companies who might be interested in purchasing that IP, Canadian companies, as a first step. And we also are very open to working with companies who, are thinking more long-term about that, because we can help them develop their IP strategy. I saw a question in the chat. Can we assist with identifying other useful assets to target for in and out licensing or acquisition? Absolutely, right? So we can absolutely work with companies who need to refine their IP strategies or set up their IP strategies and help them so that when they are ready for that next step, again, we have that relationship with them and maybe we can help with that matchmaking with a Canadian company who might be able to retain the IP in Canada if possible.
Can I have the questions?
For sure.
Oh yeah, I have a business plan and I have the IP. I have innovation solutions. When people shopping, buying clothes online, they usually buy the wrong item because of wrong size or wrong material, etc., etc. And I developed a tool for online try-on, and that tool I have a register the IP for that, and now I don't know how to do it with that with my innovations. And I asked for some help, but most of the program focus for Canadians and PR holder. Why? I am a temporary holder. So can I knock this door for help? Yeah, that's my question.
So definitely we'll happy to kind of explore more about kind of how we can help on that note. So definitely we'll love to hear about the kind of what you are doing, and then kind of what your technologies you're focusing on, who is your current target market that maybe kind of we can consider. But in terms of the kind of the IP and the kind of that CIRI program, definitely Josée has some comments that she can add here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'd have to take a look and see if you were eligible, because you have to be an IRAP or NRC client. And so we'd have to take a look at that, but I'd be happy to chat with you. We'll provide you with the our emails and our calendar links so that you can book time to chat. And if you'd like to book, I'd be happy to do a deeper dive into that with you and explore that for you.
Oh yes, I will find you. I will find you an email to express about that. Few months ago, I contacted IRAF, but they introduced me some program. But after that, all the programs said that I'm not eligible for that because my company is based in Canada, but I'm not a Canadian or PR holder.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the PR holder because of COVID, not about my situation. So that's why I'm stuck with my business. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely happy to chat with you about that.
Okay. Thank you, Joseph. Can you put your email on the hub chat and I will find you, or I will find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have another, I guess, eligibility question. In terms of small cap public companies, are they eligible for either of the programs? And Tom, if you want to jump in online and add to the question, please do.
Yeah, just looking to get clarification on program eligibility. You answered, Josée, the other question I posted as well earlier. Just wondering if company status, public or private, was an eligible criteria.
So we are working with a kind of the private companies that they are looking for kind of the raising for the capital investment program specifically. Looking for kind of the raising money up to Series A. So that's the kind of the sweet spot. We work with the companies that they are in the public and also looking for a kind of the private money. And we have a couple of companies in our pipeline that we are working with that one. But as I said, mostly we prefer to work with the kind of the private ones, but we have a couple of companies that they are in the kind of the TSX list, and then we work with them as part of the capital investment program. Yeah, so both, but the private one is the kind of the more suitable, and we have more resources to offer.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a question about how long do eligible participants have to complete the programs being offered, and is there a deadline and how COVID has affected these timeframes?
Yeah, I apologize. I was supposed to talk about that during the presentation. So the CIRI timeframe is targeted at about 4 to 6 months working with a company. And then the CIP timeframe is longer, and sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but 6 to 12 months for the CIP program is sort of the target timeframe for that. COVID, yeah, COVID hasn't really, I mean, if we start now, it's, you know, the clock starts from when we accept you into a program. So it doesn't really affect the timeframes.
Yeah, and for the capital investment program, it's not a kind of the one-time program. So as long as you're looking for raising money, every time that you kind of start a new kind of the cycle of fundraising, you can join that program and receive the services. So this is a kind of the way that we have companies have been with us for maybe kind of the couple of years. In between, they had a kind of some break to go and then kind of develop and then come back for another round of the investment. So yeah, that's the kind of the opportunity you can work with a capital investment program advisory team as long as you're going after kind of the next stage of the kind of the fundraising opportunity on that note. And generally speaking, we are looking for a company that they are maybe 6 to 12 months to the fundraising stage or the kind of the fundraising target they have to get them prepared for that time. So that's exactly as Josée mentioned, that program can take between 6 to 12 months or even longer, but generally speaking, that's the kind of the time frame we consider when we onboard a company.
One question that's kind of come up in a theme here is around the definition of innovation that we're speaking to, and is it sort of the rocket science project or a profitable startup, and what are the metrics for validating a technology improvement is intellectual property? And then I think kind of another piece of that question that the PIC supercluster clients might have is, is it a hard and fast focus on digital technologies and data-driven technologies, or are things like manufacturing technologies and processing technologies also of interest to the program?
So for the capital investment program, we are looking for a kind of the tech solutions. We are not looking for a kind of the rocket science to be honest. We are looking for a kind of the tech startups that have a kind of the tech embedded solutions, including the manufacturing, including kind of the maybe in the kind of digital services, including kind of the maybe formula, anything kind of the tied to the kind of the some level of technology involved on that. But they are looking for raising money from the VC or angel groups to kind of the scale their business. So for the capital investment program, the criteria for innovation is really broad and depends on the kind of as part of our network and as part of the partners network. Do we have a strategic or aligned investors can help them not only from the kind of the financial perspective, from the network, from the kind of the right people to work with. Do we have those people in our network that we can help the company or not? So this is the kind of for the capital investment program. But for CIRI, because it should be a kind of the IRAP company, IRAP has its own definition of the innovation and the technologies. As long as you are qualified IRAP client, then you're also qualified for this program, regardless of it's the kind of the rocket science or just the kind of the profitable startup in the SaaS or in the kind of the fintech or B2C software.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Just something else that comes to mind in this thread is, for companies that perhaps have filed a PCT application, are you able to help them find parties who perhaps may want to leverage that application in countries where the Canadian company can't file the patent, whether because they can't afford it or through other sort of challenges?
So that would be, I don't think that would be the main objective of the CIRI program, right? Because the idea there is to maintain control of that IP within Canada. Though, I'd be happy to talk to anybody who is in that situation, because depending on the remaining benefits in Canada, if they were looking to kind of overlap that, we could talk about that for sure. Okay. And then in terms of the KIT program, I'll let CIP speak to that one.
So in terms of access to the kind of the international side, we have a partner that might have a kind of the opportunity to talk to them and kind of explore that opportunity. But as a kind of the main focus for ventureLAB is kind of to maintain the IP in Canada and develop the technology in Canada. We definitely kind of prefer to kind of to see how we can support on that end, but through our network, definitely if there's any opportunity, we're happy to help there.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, just as it comes up in some of these dialogues, it's kind of good to know that if there is something that there is potentially an opportunity for a separate dialogue. So thank you for that.
I don't see any other questions in the chat. I guess we'll just do one final call. If anyone does have a question, please feel free to unmute. But as Josée and CIP said, they will be sharing their contact information at the end of the session, and we'll also send up a follow-up email after the session to share those details and their calendar information. So if any questions come up, you can contact them directly. But yeah, we just wanted to thank you all for joining the session this afternoon, and a big thank you to CIP and Josée for taking the time to share with the Proteins and Digital Supercluster members about this program. I think it's a really exciting initiative, and we'll be sure to continue promoting it as the call for applications is open.
Thanks very much for having us. We really appreciate this opportunity to share the programs with your members.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much for that opportunity.